I'd like to start by introducing your Master of Ceremonies this morning, the former Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States, General Joseph Dunford.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to join you as we dedicate Quincy Navy Park and we unveil the lone sailor statue. There's an expression that sailors are most happy when they're haze, gray, and underway. And so appropriately enough, it is haze, gray, and the program is now underway. So it's a great thing. I'm going to begin by recognizing some special guests, and I'd ask you to hold your applause to the end. First, we have behind me Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll, proud daughter of a sailor. It's Congressman Stephen Lynch, our Secretary of Veterans Affairs, John Santiago, Rear Admiral Todd Evans, who's here representing our Chief of Naval Operations, Vice Admiral John Knoll, who serves as the President and CEO of the Navy Memorial, Commander Matt Miller from our Navy Reserve Center here in Quincy, and to add a little bit of dignity, we even have on this Navy Day a couple of generals here, General Frank McGinn and Ronald Rand, both from Quincy. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our special guest. I'm very proud to say that I come from Quincy, the city of presidents, and we have a long and proud history of excellence of public service that dates back to the founding of our nation. An important part of our story has been Quincy's connection to the United States Navy since John Adams advocated for its establishment. And this morning, we're taking a moment to reflect on that legacy. Today, at this historic site, we celebrate Quincy's vital contributions to shipbuilding and to the training of naval aviators. But most importantly, we celebrate the long line of Quincy natives who've answered the call to serve, whether as a shipbuilder or as a sailor in uniform. We're going to begin today's program with the presentation of colors by the USS Constitution Color Guard. Post the colors. Forward, off.
Mark time, mark. Ready, up. Plan, face.
Christine Cugini, our Director of Veteran Services and a U.S. Navy veteran, will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Join me. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Christine. I now invite Calla Jones, a senior at North Quincy High, to the stage to lead us in singing our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our
Please be seated. Our opening prayer was delivered by Father David Campo. Father Campo was born in Quincy and was recently commissioned as a lieutenant, junior grade in the United States Navy, where he will serve as a chaplain. Father Campo.
Thank you, General. Thank you, Mayor. On August 8, 1942, the USS Quincy was responsible for defending American transports surrounding Sable Island against the Japanese naval surface forces. It was a task that, like many naval operations throughout World War II, required great courage to face the enemy, known and unknown. Courage, in the words of Navy Chaplain Joseph Conway, 2 years later, is fear having said its prayers. Taking his own medicine, and after offering Mass for his Marines right before invading Guam, Chaplain Conway was killed in action along with the Marines in his assault craft. He was found with his chalice box tightly gripped to his chest. We could all keep God close to our chest nowadays. And this day, we have the solemn dedication of the lone sailor as a reminder of the sacrifices of all Navy personnel, from those aboard the USS Quincy 82 years ago today, of what tremendous bravery God has given to those putting everything on the line. Let us also ask God to continue to raise up brave men and women to defend us, since freedom is never truly free. Let us pray. O God, Father of the orphan and defender of the poor, we pray in gratitude of those sailors who laid down their lives for our beloved country. We are thankful especially for those 370 sailors aboard the USS Quincy who died 82 years ago today, and for all sailors who have died on behalf of the people of our country. Help us to honor their sacrifices, especially in this city of great patriotism and dedication, with lives of renewed purpose, diligence, and above all, willingness to defend those in need. We make this prayer in your holy name. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of folks that are responsible for today, but I think you can see that the commitment to honor those who have served in uniform, and particularly today here at Quincy Navy Park, is a reflection of the leadership of our mayor. And I'll now ask you to join me in welcoming our mayor, Mayor Tom Koch, to the podium.
Always have to adjust the mic, especially after General Dunford. General, thank you for your presence here today. You never forgot your hometown. You continue to serve as chair of the Adams Presidential Center Board, and we appreciate your more than 40 years of dedicated service to our nation. Thank you again, General. I appreciate Lieutenant Governor Driscoll being here, Congressman Lynch. We have a number of dignitaries and electeds I'd like to recognize. I'll start with my partner on the project, and that's the City Council, who supported some of the appropriation needed to complete this project. We have City Council President and Ward 3 Councilor Ian Kane, Councilor at Large Noel DeBona, Councilor at Large Scott Campbell, Ward 1 Councilor Dave McCarthy, Ward 2 Councilor Richard Ash, Ward 4 Councilor Jim Devine, Ward 5 Councilor Dan Minton. We also have a City Councilor from Weymouth, Fred Happel, former City Council, former County Treasurer, and former State Treasurer Tim Cahill is with us. Thank you all for being here. Senator John Keenan, representing our state delegation, and as we all know, they're very supportive of all things veterans. We have County Commissioner Joseph Shea, District Attorney Mike Morrissey, Sheriff Pat McDermott, our county representation from Quincy. Appreciate you being here. Also have a couple of friends at Quincy, Father Jim DePerry and Father Jack Ahern has also joined us. So I appreciate, again, the City Council's support for this project. So let's hear it for our elected officials. This is an interesting idea that came about a few years back, and we dealt with Admiral Frank Thorpe for a number of years. Tent Nazer, Bob Nazer, Bob used to live in one of the buildings behind us, came to me with the idea of bringing the Lone Sailor statue to Quincy. There's 19 of them now around the world. And I know that there was a little bit of impetus for that because we honored the generals up at Quincy Center, and the Navy guys wanted a little something special for them, and I understand that. So we had a great meeting with Bob and Ted, and I want to thank them for bringing the idea of the statue to us. Both of them have since gone to the Creator, so I certainly want to acknowledge both Bob and Ted. Bob was a Navy veteran, and Ted was an Air Force veteran, so we thank them for the idea of bringing it. Then, of course, for Quincy, the Lone Sailor statue wasn't quite enough. As we all know, this city is rich in history in so many ways, particularly in the area of the military. And we did some research, and I want to thank Linda Pritchard, Bob Damon, and so many others that helped us figure out, okay, who from Quincy has gone on to do great things? We come up with 6 admirals, imagine that, right out of the box. And we've got some other 5 notables. You're going to be hearing about them by General Dunford. And then, of course, as we all know, we're standing on the site of what was the Victory Plant in World War I. 20 destroyers were built on this site in World War I. And then in World War II, as you know the story, this became a naval air station and served the nations. Many pilots were trained here to go off before the Air Force was around as Navy pilots. So this city, as we all know, is incredibly rich in history, and it's really our job to be the custodian and to be the preservationists and the conservationists and to tell those stories for future generations. And this will be forever here as a living outdoor museum to tell those stories. So with that, I want to recognize some people. These things don't just happen. An incredible project team that we had. Joe Shea, head of Granite Partners, a Quincy kid, helped put the whole project together. Joe, thank you. Rich Houghton, another Quincy kid, landscape architect from Halverson Design. Great job. An uncle that served in the Navy. Matt Nichols, MJ Nichols, West Quincy kid. Him and his team, Mike Knott, a North Quincy kid, and Chris Conley, a Quincy kid, all put together the project here behind us. The incredible pride that I saw every time I visit here was just amazing. And it was all because of that Quincy love and connection. And then, of course, the day itself, the event committee. So many people involved in that, all our city departments, my staff. I did want to single out Karen O'Toole, who put it all together for us. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, team. This place looks absolutely incredible. And there's one other person I want to mention, and that's Peter O'Connell. This Marina Bay was a dream of Peter's and his brother back in the 80s. And they built this boardwalk many years ago. But more than that, long before people recognized the Vietnam veterans, they built the clock tower just down the boardwalk, which is dedicated to Vietnam vets. And inscribed on that wall is a number of Quincy kids who never came home. So Peter, thank you for your help in allowing us to put this here and for your commitment to our veterans. Now I'm going to ask my friend, Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll. I got to know Kim many years ago when she was the mayor of Salem. She had a little more seniority than I did, so I certainly appreciated her mentoring in my early years as mayor. And she's doing an outstanding job as our Lieutenant Governor, Kim Driscoll.
I'm not sure who mentored who as mayor, but I'm so grateful to be able to work with you as a colleague, Tom. We both were mayors of historic seaport communities who have rich histories, and under your leadership, Quincy has a proud past but an even brighter future. So thank you so much for inviting me here to celebrate what really is community values. And obviously so pleased to be with so many who are here, community members, members of local government, our Congressman Steve Lynch, we are lucky to have representing us in Washington, D.C. every single day. And folks who are just come together, who are happy to be able to celebrate a community rich in history. From our team also as Secretary Santiago, it's been a big week for us in the administration, celebrating our veterans with a recent HERO Act bill, most comprehensive veterans benefits legislation adopted in over 20 years. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but thank you, John, for all the work you're doing. The first veteran secretary in Massachusetts history, and we couldn't find a better person to lead that cabinet. And the number of individuals who are here, who we are dedicating this park to, so grateful to be in your company, your amazing service. I've had the pleasure to meet you and know you. Just want to say with some of you, just want to say with gratitude, it's such an honor to be able to participate in this on the very first day with the unveiling of the statue, the naming of this park, on a wonderful sunny day. The sun is coming out, I'm convinced of that. You know, as the daughter of a Navy sailor and as a member of a military family, it's really emotional for me to be here today, to honor those who have served and to continue to serve here in Quincy. I was born in Hawaii. We lived in Newport Beach, Newport, Rhode Island, Washington, D.C. We moved around a lot, like a lot of military families. And to be able to be here today to see the great legacy of so many who have served in the Navy, and to know that the next generations will hopefully be inspired by this, it just doesn't get any better way to start your day. We're going to be able to honor 6 distinguished Navy admirals and pay tribute to 6 remarkable veterans, all of whom have made significant contributions to our country and to this community. And to all of you, know that Massachusetts is eternally grateful for your service. You are a source of our inspiration, our hope, and our courage. We can only hope to live up to your example, to be better citizens and be building a better world for the next generation. Here in Massachusetts, we certainly are proud supporters of military members and their families. We're the birthplace of the American Revolution, which we will be celebrating in 2026. We are the birthplace of the National Guard, my own hometown of Salem there. And we've always been fierce champions for freedoms, for continuously finding ways to get better. We don't rest on our laurels in Massachusetts. We have a bias for action, a bias for good. And taking care of our veterans, those who serve our country, is incredibly important to us. Which is why, as I mentioned earlier, we're so proud to be able to sign into law the HERO Act, with a lot of help from our legislative delegation. So I want to thank Senator Keene and the other members of the legislature who were here. It is truly a partnership that enables us to be a Commonwealth that provides the most comprehensive, the best benefits for our veterans of any state in this country. This particular legislation ups the ante even more and represents our commitment to redefining the landscape of veteran services for Massachusetts. It ensures that veterans receive proper support by expanding benefits, modernizing services, and reaching more veterans. They shouldn't have to find us, we're gonna find them. As I said, it allows us to lead the nation in veteran services, and it's one step that we can take that's gonna provide our veterans with dignity, respect, and the support they deserve for their selfless service to our state and our country. We're also here to celebrate the unveiling of Quincy's own Lone Sailor statue. It's beautiful, look at that. It recognizes the journey of those in the Navy, the dedication and commitment that it requires from those who choose this path. It's moments like these when I think about my father, his 22 years of service, and the way it shaped my family's life. We were, are, and always will be a Navy family, with all that entails. Moving frequently, following the call of service, trips to the PX, those were a lot of fun. Working hard with discipline and dedication, modeled for us and expected of us. It's not always easy to be part of a military family. You're always the new kid, and as many here understand, those sacrifices are well worth it when you think about what it means to be a country that stands up for each other, that's willing to sacrifice for our neighbors. So I'm forever grateful for the lessons it taught me. I hope that with this statute in this park, we can inspire the next generation to proudly join our Navy so that they too can be a part of this community. From the governor and our entire administration to your families and neighbors, we're all with you. We're so grateful to be a part of this ceremony. Know that we thank you for your service from the bottom of our hearts and look forward for generations to come to be able to celebrate the proud traditions here in the city of Quincy. Thanks so much for having me this morning.
Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, thanks so much for joining us today, and I got to think that your dad is looking down with pride today, knowing that you didn't forget your roots. Our next speaker is our congressman, but also, and the governor talked about veterans, a tireless advocate for veterans and our men and women in uniform, and I know that from personal experience in dealing with Congressman Lynch over the years. I'd ask you to please join me in welcoming Congressman Stephen Lynch to the podium.
Thank you, General. Good morning, everyone. Great to be with you. Reverend Clergy, Father Campo, thank you for your blessing. Mayor Tom Koch, General Dunford, Vice Admiral Kilrain, Rear Admiral Keith, and our honored guests, and to all the families and men and women here today to join in this effort on behalf of the city of Quincy. To my colleagues in government as well, Senator Keenan, Representative Ayers, Representative Taki Chan, Police Chief Kennedy and Fire Chief Jackson, to the color guard here today, to all the active military personnel and veterans here assembled, to Gold Star families who are here. It is indeed my pleasure and my honor to be with you here today for the unveiling of the Lone Sailor Memorial, which gives tribute to the many sons and daughters of Quincy throughout this city's history who've donned the uniform of our country in defense of democracy and liberty across the globe. As General Dunford mentioned, the city of Quincy has had a long and dynamic, and some would say symbiotic, relationship with the sea and the United States Navy. Just as Quincy, situated here on the edge of the Atlantic, has been shaped by the sea, so too Quincy's residents have on occasion returned the favor. You know, as a young man, just beginning to learn my craft as a union iron worker, I worked nights here at the Quincy shipyard for General Dynamics. The folks at General Dynamics, they had a couple of salty old Navy veterans who ran their welding school. And they drilled into every welder in that shipyard the importance of what we were building and reminding us of the serious consequences of any mistake or deviation from the high standards that they set. And every single welder at this shipyard knew the history and the legacy of the Fall River Shipyard here in Quincy and its place in the history of the United States Navy. Many notable vessels, battleships, destroyers, cruisers, aircraft carriers, and submarines were produced here in Quincy before they sailed off into history. The USS Quincy that the chaplain spoke of this morning, whose bell now resides in this park, famous for providing gunfire support at Normandy on D-Day and carrying President FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, to the Yalta Conference. The USS Nevada, which sat at anchor in Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941, a day that does live in infamy. It was one of the few ships to actually get underway during the Japanese attack. And by the action of its crew, it became the target of both aerial bombardment and torpedo attack and was severely damaged. But in a poetic example of what goes around, the Nevada was quickly repaired and redeployed and went on to become part of the Allied landing flotilla at Normandy on D-Day in June of 1944. Similarly, the USS aircraft carrier Wasp CV-7 was also built here in Quincy, later to be sunk in the South Pacific while rendering heroic support to the Marine Corps landing at Guadalcanal. You know, it is said that there's loyalty in the simple act of remembrance. And I want to thank my friend, my partner, Tom Koch, for once again demonstrating such care and such detailed attention to the memories of those intrepid souls who served our nation in times when world democracy and our liberty itself hung in the balance. Today is an important occasion in the history of Quincy. You know, I've had the opportunity to work with the American Battle Monuments Commission, which does an excellent job maintaining memorials and monuments and cemeteries in foreign countries where Americans have perished during our nation's wars. And the Oversight Committee, which I serve on, shares a responsibility in that area. So as part of my job, during my time in Congress, I've had the opportunity to travel to and pay my respects at the Punch Bowl in Pearl Harbor. I've attended the 75th anniversary of both Normandy and the Battle of the Bulge at Bastogne. I've laid wreaths at the Marine Barracks in Beirut, Lebanon. And I've visited some lesser-known battlefields and cemeteries on the north coast of Africa, in Tunisia, in the city of Tunis, which was the ancient site of the nation of Carthage, where in 1942 so many Massachusetts sailors and Marines, not only sailors and Marines, but also merchant mariners, civilian members of the U.S. Merchant Marine perished during the landings in North Africa and the vicious U-boat campaign against Allied fleets in 1942. I've also had a chance to work with the Defense Department POW MIA Accounting Agency, the DPAA, which is based at Hickam Air Force Base in Hawaii, and which Congress funds to help locate and identify and return to their families the remains of U.S. military personnel who have been killed in action during our nation's wars on foreign soil. The DPAA reports that there are 81,000 U.S. service members who are unaccounted for. But importantly, 41,000 of those, more than half, are sailors and Marines who perished in the major sea battles of World War II. Now, some progress has been made recently, the USS Oklahoma in Pearl Harbor and on the island of Tarawa. But because of the extreme circumstances of their final heroic strivings upon vast oceans, thousands of miles from home, many of these sailors and Marines are classified as unrecoverable or buried at sea. But today, that changes. And the veterans and families of Quincy, led by Mayor Tom Koch, have changed that in a sense, because all those sailors and Marines will be forever remembered here, right here in Quincy. We remember them today and forever right here in the city of Quincy, Massachusetts, the city of generals, the city of admirals, the city of presidents, and how beautiful, how noble, and how truly American is that. In closing, may God bless the city of Quincy and our military service members everywhere. May God comfort our Gold Star families, and may God continue to bless and guide these United States of America. Thank you.
Congressman Lynch, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for your remarks, but more importantly, thanks for what you do for us every day down in Washington, D.C., fighting a good fight. Before I introduce our next guest, I'd like to ask all of the veterans that are here today to please stand. That gives you some idea of what Quincy's all about. For many years, Massachusetts has set the standard for taking care of veterans, and that tradition continues today under the leadership of our current Secretary of Veterans Affairs. Please join me in welcoming Secretary John Santiago.
Well, good morning, everyone. General Dunford, thank you for the kind introduction. I do have to tell a story. I had the honor and privilege of meeting the general about a year ago, I'd say, and his wife over an event. And I just marveled at his intelligence, his leadership, and his eloquence. And I remember someone asking a question on stage, what would the first five things you would do if North Korea launched an attack on America? And he rattled off 5 quick things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And none of them included calling the President of the United States. I said, wow, this guy's important. That same evening, I had asked the general, the highest ranking official in the military at the time, between me and you, do aliens exist? I can't tell you what he said, but we had a good conversation. Mr. Mayor, got to know you over the last couple of years. Your leadership, your patriotism, you're a God-fearing man. I look up to servants, public servants like the mayor, because he cares so much about the city. He cares so much about the community. He cares so much about the military. And it's just an honor to be here, invited by him to share this important occasion with you all. To Congressman Lynch and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, it's so great to be in a position now as Secretary of Veteran Services, a brand new position where I can look to leaders like them, talk to them about the needs and what we need in our veteran community, in our military community, and they answer and they're back with resources and support whenever I call them. So I'm incredibly grateful for their leadership. My job as secretary is twofold. The first part is set the agenda, building out this brand new secretariat that didn't exist ever before. Before this, I was a state legislator. I was actually deployed to Syria when the governor called me and asked me about taking on this position, and I thought long and hard about this, given the challenges that we were facing in our state veteran homes and a variety of other issues. I hung up the phone, thought long and hard about that decision, and I called her back and I said, absolutely. Thought about my experiences as a veteran, as a provider to veterans and active service members. So for the past year and a half, we've been doing just that. I'm very proud that this administration, as the LG said, put forward the HERO Act, the most comprehensive piece of veterans legislation ever filed in this Commonwealth's history. I'm so proud that we've invested $20 million, the largest dedicated amount to end veteran homelessness ever, just this past year. And that we are engaging more veterans than ever before, and we're investing more state dollars than ever before. And that's because of the leadership of Governor Healy and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll. But that's one part of my job, get those programs and benefits going, serving our community. But the second part is just as important, and that's what today's about. It's about recognizing the service and sacrifice of our service members and our veterans. And that's what we're doing today. And for me, it's personally important because it reminds me of what came before me, why I'm doing my job, and what this country is about. And so as I walk around here reading about the stories of the 11 notables, about the admirals and the service they do, that inspires me to do my job each and every day. And so on behalf of the administration and the veteran community of Massachusetts, it's an honor to be here. I look forward to coming back for years to come and celebrating this important day with each and every one of you. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Secretary Santiago, for being here and doing that second part of your job, being here to remember, but more importantly, again, thanks for what you do every day to take care of our veterans in the Commonwealth. Just before I go on, I think Mayor Bob Hedlund joined us from Weymouth. We just got the word. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. You're out here somewhere. Thanks for joining us. Today, we pay particular tribute to 5 notable sailors from Quincy who represent the thousands of Quincy natives who have served. 3 are deceased. Henry Bosworth served as a signalman during World War II and returned home to found the Quincy Sun. He's represented today by his son, Bob, who carried on his father's legacy at the Quincy Sun. Bob. Please stand up. Thanks for being here to represent your dad
My family's also here.
and the rest of your family.
Yeah, you may stand.
They can stand as well.
Wherever you are, please stand.
Charles Francis Adams served as the 44th Secretary of the Navy, and before his national service, he was the mayor of Quincy and a city councilor. John Shea was the executive officer of the Naval Air Station here at Squantum during its expansion during the 1930s. In World War II, he served aboard the USS Wasp. In 1942, he and 193 sailors died fighting a fire caused by a torpedo, and he was posthumously awarded the Navy Cross and the Purple Heart. We also recognize today Captain Dick Stratton, a naval aviator from North Quincy who flew 22 combat missions in Vietnam before being shot down and captured. He endured 2,251 days as a POW in Hanoi. Captain Stratton and his wife Alice continued to serve after their Navy chapter by focusing on individuals affected by psychological trauma and addiction. Captain Stratton couldn't be with us today, but he's represented by his son Patrick. And just before I ask Patrick to stand, it's funny how coincidences occur. I'm a Quincy native, and 40 years ago this year, I was a young Marine captain at Quantico, Virginia, and we had a guest speaker that day, Captain Dick Stratton, to talk about character and leadership. And it remains in my years of service one of the most powerful demonstrations of character and leadership that I ever heard, and those lessons from Captain Dick Stratton carried with me through the rest of my career, and I feel incredibly blessed to have met him. He's in Florida today suffering from illness, but his son is a United States Marine, and here today, Patrick, please rise and represent the family. The Quincy icon is here today, Frank Bellotti. I didn't even get a chance to introduce you, and you're already clapping, which is not a surprise. In World War II, he served in the Navy's elite amphibious scouts and raiders, the predecessors to today's Navy SEALs. After taking off the uniform, he served as the Lieutenant Governor and the Attorney General for the Commonwealth. The Bellottis are well known in Quincy. Frank and his wife Maggie raised 12 children here in Quincy, and I actually went to elementary school with 2 of them. But Frank, please stand and be recognized. If there are young men and women at Quincy High and North Quincy that are someday just kind of thinking about what does right look like in life, all they got to do is look at Frank Bellotti. That's what right looks like to me. We're also honored to have Millie Cox with us. Speaking of Quincy icons, Millie served as a United States Marine in World War II. After serving in uniform, Millie and her husband Will raised their family in Quincy. Millie worked for Quincy Public Schools and later served as a clerk for the Quincy Veteran Services Office. She's with us today, and we're honored to invite her to the podium to share a few thoughts. Millie, please.
Good morning. When I was a young Marine, I never dreamed that I would be standing here more than 80 years later in this hallowed ground in the company of heroes. This distinction today has to be the highlight of my very long life. I accept it gladly for all women warriors, past and present. We were always capable. Someone just had to recognize that. I grew up in a very patriotic home My father was a disabled veteran of World War I who dedicated his whole life to veterans organizations. And when he died, his casket had 7 covers on it, representing the positions he held at the local, state, and national levels. My parents had signed for my 17-year-old brother to enlist in the Army, infantry like our dad. Richard received the Silver Star for gallantry in action and devotion to duty. Now Uncle Sam was asking women to do their part, and I certainly wanted to do that. I had a skill, and I freed a Marine to fight. When the war ended, I married my high school sweetheart, William Augustine Michael Cox, bosun mate 2nd class, 3.5 years in the Navy. We moved to Quincy in 1956 to bring up our family of Michael, Maureen, Billy, Neil, Patrick, Joseph, and Brendan. And when the neighborhood kids wanted to rag on my kids, they'd say, "Your mother wore combat boots." And my kids would say, "You're damn tootin'." I became the first woman veteran to serve as a head clerk at Veteran Services Department in Quincy, and I owe a debt of gratitude to another Quincy veteran, Bob LaFleur, who was our graves officer. He invited me to be the master of ceremonies for the Memorial Day Parade in 1988 and 1990. The slogan was, "Women are veterans too." And now, 34 years later, the director of Veteran Services is Christine Cugini, bosun mate 2nd class Navy. Her outreach is amazing. It is very heartwarming today for Fighting Joe Dunford to be the master of ceremonies, because his parents, Kay and Joe, wintered with Will and me at Marco Island, Florida, back in the day. And I am wearing the pin that Ellen gave me at the General's dinner. We were always the city of presidents. Now we are the city of presidents, generals, and admirals, thanks to the vision of Mayor Tom Koch, who, for the city he loves and we love. Now, when the young women in the military thank me for blazing the way, I am humbled. I did not seek any glory. I saw a call to duty and I answered it. And now people say to me, "Would you do that again?" My answer is yes, yes, yes. In a heartbeat, Semper Fi and anchors away.
Billy, if there was anybody wondering about capability before this morning's ceremony, no one will leave this morning wondering about capability. I'm going to ask you just to stand up one more time. Speaking of what right looks like. Quincy is known for producing leaders, and this morning we recognize 6 of our own who served at the highest levels of Navy leadership. Vice Admiral John Reddy served for over 30 years and accumulated, and for the naval aviators in the crowd, they may gasp at this, 6,800 flight hours in 87 different types of aircraft. His service includes commanding the U.S. Navy Fighter School Top Gun. His final assignment was as the Commander, Naval Air Force, Atlantic Fleet. He's represented today by a number of family members, to include his wife Mary, who flew in from northern Michigan. I understand his daughter Jennifer is here, his son John, and his uncle, former Navy Lieutenant Commander Paul Norton. So if I could have the Reddy family please stand up. We're also recognizing Rear Admiral Bartholomew Hogan, who served as the Navy's Surgeon General, Rear Admiral Giles Stedman, who served as the Superintendent of the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, and Rear Admiral Forrest Royal, who commanded the 6th Amphibious Group in the Pacific during World War II. Two of our distinguished Navy leaders are with us today and will speak on behalf of their fellow sailors. I got Frank McGinn sitting in front of me, putting signs up, soldiers, and sailors. Vice Admiral Colin Kilrain served 38 years in the United States Navy as a SEAL. His service includes multiple combat deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. And you can see the highlights of his career in your program. I had the privilege of serving with Admiral Kilrain on a number of occasions, to include in combat. And I would just summarize his leadership by saying, he's the kind of leader that you would want your daughter or son to be with in a difficult situation. And if the sons and daughters of Quincy were off in harm's way, the individual that I would most want to be looking out for them would be Vice Admiral Colin Kilrain. Please help me join him. Please help me join him.
Well, good morning. I have a bunch of guests from out of town that are here, and I was wondering where the translation services are so they could understand what everybody's saying. Now, it's good to be back in the Boston area, and it doesn't take long for me to get my accent back. So, first of all, let me say how thankful I am to be a part of this. And I want to extend my gratitude and thanks to all the vets here, the police, other first responders, and other people that helped put this thing together, because I know a whole lot went to making this happen. So thank you to all of them, and a special thanks to the Color Guard as well. Thanks for allowing me to be part of this ceremony and to sit up here with these other awardees. This is a real honor for me. I want to thank Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, Congressman Lynch, and Secretary Santiago for their kind words. Thank you. Yesterday there was another ceremony in Braintree that Congressman Lynch was kind enough to attend. We sat in the sun for quite a long period of time, and both of us, I think, have pasty white Irish skin, and so I waxed on a little bit too long yesterday, and I said, you know what, I'm going to make this speech really short. I knew I kind of screwed up when I woke up this morning. It was raining, and then I saw this tarp here. So anyways, I'm still going to keep my comments very brief. You know, I don't have many heroes, but I can be very complimentary now that I no longer work for the guy. But General Dunford is one of my heroes, and And, you know, it's not normal that you see a former chief of staff, former joint chiefs of staff of the military, the senior most ranking member in the military, serve as an MC for an event like this. You just don't see that often. So that's a testament to two things. One is his humility, and the other is Mayor Koch's persistence. I tell you, Mayor Koch has been pestering me. Talking to me for a couple of years, and I tried to kind of ditch this idea of doing this, and I tried to do it politely so I wouldn't offend anybody, and him in particular. But he just doesn't catch on. And so, like I said, I couldn't say no. So here I am. But Mayor Koch, thank you for everything you've done for this town. For this town, and especially for its service members. Now, I got to tell you, I'm a little embarrassed today because I'm just realizing that Frank Bellotti was one of the first frogmen that we had in the United States. And that's an important thing to know because they were the precursors to the Navy SEALs. And he served in World War II. And if you know about the casualty rates for Navy frogmen during that time period, they were some of the highest in all of the war. Of all the units that were involved, they had some of the highest casualty rates. And so I know they were the precursors to the SEALs, and I think it's within my authority, now knowing this, that I can take my pin off and make him an honorary SEAL. Well, Frank, it looks better on you than it does me. I'm honored that you were wearing it. Hey, Millie, thanks for your great words as well, and you're an inspiration to everybody here. So let me get back to Mayor Koch. Mayor, thanks for making this event a reality. This is truly a special testament to your leadership. This Navy Park is a great location for the Lone Sailor Monument. I think a Navy guy chose this location because he put it right next to a bar. I mean, he's got the right audience today, I guarantee. But I really do want to recognize your incredible efforts to support the service members of your town. It's obvious to anyone walking through downtown Quincy that this is a military-friendly town. Quincy has a long tradition of military service dating from the Revolutionary War to present day. It's appropriate we honor this history to ensure each generation understands and appreciates contributions of its service members. I had a chance to pass through Quincy recently, and I must say I was incredibly impressed with the upgrades you've made. Many claim it's difficult to get anything done in government. Well, they should come to Quincy. Here, it's obvious to see opportunities where others see obstacles. The General's Bridge is not only beautiful, but it's inspiring for all who see it. I must say, however, those of us in the Naval Service were a wee bit concerned that we were going to be forgotten. But it's apparent now we weren't. And you can push and put all those concerns to rest. General Dunford, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, I can't thank him enough for agreeing to do this ceremony. As I said, it's a humble gesture on his part. I had the good fortune to work for the General when he was commander of all U.S. and Allied forces in Afghanistan. I worked for Jim McConville, who happens to be another Quincy General as well. The three of us in 2013 in Afghanistan was auspicious in for many reasons. First of all, it was three guys from Quincy that were in key leadership positions. But the other thing is that 2013, if you remember, is when the Red Sox won the World Series. Most important. And as you can imagine, we were really humble about the fact that, the Red Sox had won the World Series. In a typical Boston, shy, reserved manner. The other people that were on his staff didn't quite think that way. At all. But it was fun, and it was great privilege to work for the General. Before I give my remarks, let me also recognize Rear Admiral Steve Keith, again, and all the other awardees. Shipmate Vice Admiral John Knoll, as the General already pointed out. So my circumstances for being here are a little unusual, as I have the good fortune of being considered a resident of Braintree and Quincy, kind of like dual citizenship. I was born in Quincy, as were all 7 of my siblings, and I kind of come from a famous family, actually. For those of you who are boxing fans, my great-grandfather, Jake Kilrain, was holder of the World Champion Police Gazette title. He lost that title to a guy from Boston named John L. Sullivan in a 75-round bare-knuckle fight. That lasted 2 hours and 45 minutes in 114-degree heat in Mississippi. Those guys were tough. But he moved here to Quincy, and my grandfather and father were born here. So I almost feel like royalty here. I'm 3rd generation. And so for most of my youth, I lived just over the border in Braintree. And where's the mayor from Weymouth again? Where is he? Is he here? Well, I was going to shamelessly tell him I live close to Weymouth, too. And so I don't mind gaining citizenship there either. But I went to school in Braintree, but I spent a good portion of my out-of-school time here in Quincy. Quincy, at least during my time, had a lot of things that interested me as a kid. Good restaurants, sporting goods stores, the Strand Movie Theater, and of course, Napoli pizza. I must say, as a kid, I loved pizza. I wouldn't hesitate to drive my bike to Quincy with only 25 cents in my pocket just to get a slice of Napoli's pizza. But the main reason I spent so much time in Quincy was because Quincy had a YMCA youth wrestling program, the only one, I believe, on the South Shore. The YMCA became a magnet for all the kids in Boston area and throughout the South Shore who are interested in wrestling. And although it may sound somewhat trivial now, this small youth program influenced and developed several very successful wrestlers, to include one that would go to wrestle at Lehigh University and then become a Navy SEAL. My decision to join the military was somewhat unexpected. I didn't come from a military family, and the university I attended wasn't known for sending many of its students to the military. But I wanted to serve, so I chose the Navy, in part because my dad and uncle served in the Navy during World War II, but also because growing up in this area, I loved being on the water, and I loved the sight of battleships and how the industry here played a critical role in the naval shipbuilding. Upon entering the Navy, a recruiter suggested I consider the Navy SEALs. I was shown a recruiting film of these guys doing crazy things, and I became immediately hooked. All I asked is, where do I sign? When I joined the military, I never thought of making a career. The thought that I would spend 38 years in the Navy and become a vice admiral was unimaginable to me. I traveled the world over, and I fought in a couple wars. I'm proud of my service, and I'm proud of the successes we had as a military. And I'm especially proud of all the brave warriors who were always willing to step forward to do their part, to sacrifice and to win, no matter what the cost. Many of my friends and colleagues have asked why I stayed so long. It's a fair question, but the answer to it has varied over years. At first, it was fun and adventurous, but for me at least, I stayed simply because of the people. There is something you see about soldiering, duty, service, and taking care of people that gets in your blood and then becomes hard to get out. But I leave that now to the next generation. I want to thank you again for this special recognition. I don't get back to this area as often as I would like, but when I do return, I know I will have a new site to visit in Quincy, the town I love so well. I ask that we continue to support our troops, like many of you in Quincy so proudly do. We live in a time that is fraught with uncertainty. More than ever, we need wise and incredibly strong leaders to lead us through these turbulent times. We all have a role to play, so let's do our part, however small, to support our country, and especially to those who we ask to defend it. Thank you for having me.
Donald, thanks for your words, and I do know that you didn't want to do this and fought for a couple of years to do it, but what I hope is that some young guy or gal will walk by the park someday and read about you and say, you know, that sounds pretty good, I might try to do that. And that's what really today is all about, is inspiring the next generation to serve in the same manner that you did, so thanks. Our final speaker is Rear Admiral Stephen Keith, another distinguished naval aviator. Admiral Keith served over 33 years, and he flew over 4,000 hours in the P-2 and the P-3. And during the Cold War, he had numerous operational deployments in anti-submarine warfare patrol squadrons. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me join Admiral Keith to the podium.
Hello, everybody. First of all, I have a confession, an apology. I'm totally embarrassed because my shoes are coming apart. What do you think, Frank? So if you'll forgive that and listen to my accent. Did everyone hear that? I want to welcome and thank Lieutenant Governor Congress. You're wonderful. Secretary of Veterans Affairs, chaplains, mayor. Boy, have you got a lot of attention today. In general, thank you. Admirals, elected officials, wonderful family, friends, veterans. What a wonderful day. This is more than I could envision. And I'm sure for you, maybe you thought a park was something with grass and a diamond, baseball diamond, or soccer. No, but thanks to a very visionary man, we have today. And I'm in awe of everything here, not only the crowd, but the symbolism that is present, that I relate to. And the first symbol, as talked about, is the lone sailor. To me, the lone sailor represents everything that each speaker has talked about. But for me, it's the vessel of people I know that have done things in the Navy. I can put faces with them. This helps me remember them in their time of need. There's sadness in that, there's joy in that. But the sacrifices that he represents are real. And everyone here who has served has made their sacrifices, their contributions to the service of this country. This morning we started the ceremony with what I remember as a child going to school here. I started out in Mrs. Pickles' kindergarten in Wollaston. Anyone remember Mrs. Pickles? I remember most the maypole dance, and she got bread left over from the bakery. She served peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on pumpernickel bread with the seeds. I don't like pumpernickel seeds anymore. I went to Francis W. Parker School, wonderful teachers, and I did junior high, high school, and North Quincy High. Wonderful teachers. These are my formative years. I had strict parents. So strict that my mother took my car away from me when I was in college because I busted curfew. My father, the other symbol, my father worked in the shipyard during World War II. So did his cousin, Donald Keith. And Donald was killed in an industrial accident in the shipyard. So that ties in wonderfully, in my mind, the symbol of my family, but as described by every speaker here, the importance of the shipbuilding industries and the memories that invokes. The service flags, we started the ceremony with, as I remember a child going through school, a pledge of allegiance to the flag. It meant something to me. It meant something needed today. The national anthem, another tradition, and the prayer. Those three things were the foundation, and I'm so glad today that it still exists in places of remembrance and celebration. The service flags remind me of the service, the protection of our countries, the wars we fought throughout history. And another symbol is behind me, POWMIA. Captain Dick Stratton, I do not know. But in my levels of respect for people in the service that I've served with or know of, he deserves, in my mind, our undying respect for his pain, for his suffering for those over 2,000 days. Just imagine that, in a cell, not knowing what happens when the next morning comes. I mean, it's a blessing that he's here and that we have the POWs. And as was discussed, General, the Congressman, the foundation, the unit in Hawaii that reclaims the bodies and looks for them along those lines. So that's another thing that I can conjure up in my mind, those who have served, those who have. What may be missing today, although the Gold Star family was mentioned, the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society has their own monument, and it's a family. It's a mother and her children playing. And that's for the sacrifice that they gave in service of their family. If he looks like the lone sailor, just imagine the families, the young brides, pregnant for the first time and giving birth where their husband is off in a real war. I mean, that's something to remember and honor everyone who served. And Millie, you stole the show today with your wonderful remarks. You're a terrific kid. You shouldn't talk so much, Frank. Congratulations on that seal. Don't they usually pound it in? I'm a Quincy boy, and I've been a spokesman for the city mayor for, I left here when I was 21 years old. That was 1966. And I come home for language refresher training. Then I visit with the family, and we make up stories of the good times and the bad times. So the question I get asked most often is, well, where are you from? And of course, I always say I'm from this wonderful town, Quincy, in Massachusetts. And they say, oh, why do you talk so funny? I said, well, I've just been visiting and I've got language refresher training. So I'm sure none of you do it, but I do get asked about Quincy. I loved Quincy. I loved everything about my childhood. I couldn't think of a thing I could change. My parents were strict. I respected authority. I knew how to say yes, sir, and no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And I didn't give much pushback. But I can probably be remembered most by the teachers at North Quincy High School. I have the unofficial record in the most detention sessions in 6 years at that school. I probably had more use in conduct than any one of you here because I was mischievous. I was adventuresome. I like going up to the quarries. Where's the police chief? Is he here? Statutes of limitations are over. This land was owned by Edison at that time, and they had signs along Squantum Road that no trespassing. Well, that was a word it was too big of a word for me to understand. So our buddies would spend a lot of time wandering in this territory. So I'm not perfect. I'm just an average guy. and I graduated a solid C. maybe in the middle of the class. So the judge didn't have to send me to the Navy. I saw 2 naval aviators pull up in front of college at Boston University. I was in the student union where I did my homework. And it was a fun place to be. This white Chrysler convertible, just like 1964, with red leather interior, and the top down pulls up on Commonwealth Ave, parks in the student union, and comes in. Well, this is kind of attractive to me. So I got the lay of the land, went and took the test at Weymouth, and the adventure began. Mischievous, fun-loving, adventuresome, the Navy was a life. And Vice Admiral had it correctly. It's the people that carry you. All you have to do is motivate them and take care of them. And lead by example, with integrity. And the last thing I'll say is a sea story, a quick one. I had command of a naval air station in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania, and every periodically would get everyone together in an old hangar, unlike the ones here that were here during World War II and after. And I was getting ready to relieve or pass the lead to the officer of the day. And as I tell him to take charge and carry out the plan of the day, I feel this splattering. Pigeons. Yeah, gross, isn't it? Well, you know who loved it? Every single sailor and Marine on that base. Word spread like wildfire. So the next month we had the same thing. I came out in a Navy raincoat, black raincoat and an umbrella. They got a kick out of it. The Christmas party, I was their invited guest at the maintenance department Christmas time, and they presented me with a cap cover with a bullseye. So I was the pigeon man. So as I look at the bronze relief over here, and I know seagulls, Mayor, I think we're going to have trouble keeping them polished and clean along those lines. And I have 2 cousins, John Keith and Alan Keith in Milton. And I'll give you their number, and they'll come over when you call to clean up. Is that a deal? Yeah. Thank you very much. And thank you for this honor. Oh, come on. I love being notable. It's the nicest thing that anyone's ever said to me.
Admiral, thanks for your remarks. Mrs. Pickles and your teachers would be proud. And after meeting you and listening to you, I suspect they'd be a bit surprised as well to see you here tonight. But you did mention families and military families, and thanks for doing that, because that's an important point. Our families also serve. But speaking of that, and I'll get in trouble for this, in the front row who hasn't been recognized is Christine Koch, and speaking of serving, she's been there every step of the way. At this time, we're going to ring the bell of the USS Quincy. The passing of a sailor is marked by the ringing of 8 bells. And this morning, we're going to ring the bell to remember the 370 sailors lost aboard the Quincy 82 years ago today during the Battle of Savo Island. And we're also going to be remembering all those from Quincy who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Petty Officer 2nd Class Azua will ring the bell. Ladies and gentlemen, I just ask you to please rise. Our closing prayer will be delivered by Reverend and former Navy Chaplain John Swanson. Please take your seats.
Thank you, General. I'm a proud Quincy boy, the only Protestant kid from West Quincy. There are a few of us. And my second daughter went to St. Anne's. Hey, it's a Quincy family, we're happy to have. And Cassie just put on a badge. Actually, she just got a final endorsement as chief engineer. Any size ship, any engine room, any ship in the world. And she's now serving in the cruise line for rich people up in Alaska. Cassie went to Massachusetts Maritime Academy. I began my career at the other Maritime Academy, Maine. And when I was at Maine, the superintendent thought it was a great idea. He said, "Jack, you're from the Boston area. The USS Glover is coming to Castine. Why don't you go down and join her?" And so I did. I went down to Salem, where she was, and rode her up to Castine. And when I went aboard, the captain said to me, "Chaplain, we're so happy you're here today. I am thrilled that you are here today. The Lord does provide. In a few minutes, the pilot will be coming aboard. And I want you on the bridge because you are going to be our translator." My officers have trouble understanding exactly what the word starboard is. And you will be our translator. Quincy is a unique city. I believe that this city, population near 100,000 now, I believe it has more in common with Bingham, Maine, population 700, than it does with Boston. Everybody knows everybody or knows someone who knows somebody. It's just an amazing, amazing city. I just want to close this little reflection on the horrible early morning hours of August 9th, 1942. It's important at a ceremony like this that we remember that there's always a message and there's always a warning that we need to heed. In 1927, Navy destroyers went aground on night maneuvers off the coast of California, Point Hondo. And our Navy decided, rightly, that night maneuvers were dangerous. And naval doctrine was to avoid night actions at all costs and to avoid night maneuvers. The Japanese did not do that. They honed night maneuvers down to an art form. Our Navy's response after Pearl Harbor was to view Pearl Harbor in many circles as a dastardly sneak attack, which it was, but launched by an inferior Navy that would soon crumble in the face of a real Navy. And on August 9th, 1942, 2:45 in the a.m., all of a sudden the night black Stygian darkness became as day. As 3 U.S. cruisers and 1 Australian cruisers, the Quincy, the Vincennes, the Astoria, and the HMAS Canberra, were lit up like it was day, and all hell broke loose, and they were fired upon. 3 cruisers would sink in that action. 1 would sink a day later. It is said, the Japanese Admiral, Admiral Makako, I believe it was, said of the Quincy, Quincy put up an amazing fight. And had her captain received a little more warning, he would have perhaps not only escaped the carnage, but have taken out one of my ships. Let us remember, it's not a cliche, it's true. Freedom's not free. Let us remember there are enemies out there. Let us be ever vigilant. Never underestimate our enemies and never overestimate our own strengths. Let us honor those veterans of 370 that now lie 2,000 feet deep. And it's said, by the way, that the Quincy, that far from being a wreck, Robert Ballard said when he discovered the wreck, Robert Ballard said that the Quincy, far from being a somber sight, is a menacing sight. She sits there with her bow blown off and her guns trained to stop it, as if she just is eager to get at the enemy. That is a good legacy. Let's honor those 370 today. Let's honor all who wear the uniform and have worn the uniform of our country. Let's remember freedom's not free, and ever be vigilant. And it is an honor to be from Quincy. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, thank you for this wonderful day, for the great camaraderie we shared, Lord. Thank you for our wonderful city of Quincy, Lord God. Lord, thank you. thank you for the shipyard, Lord God, that produced so many ships. Thank you, Lord God, for everything that you do for us. And so bless us, Lord God, as we close this ceremony. Keep us ever mindful of the needs of others. I pray in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, respecting all faiths, and I close with the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God, the Lord thy God, the Lord thy God is one. Amen.
I'm going to invite Carla Jones to come back to the podium to lead us in singing the Navy hymn.
Now, before I sing, I would just like to acknowledge that I'm sure that plenty of you know the words to this song, at least a little bit. So I please invite all of you, feel free to sing along with me. Thank you. Anchors away, my boys, anchors away. Farewell to college joys, we sail at break of day. Through our last night ashore, where'er we roam, until we meet once more, here's wishing you a happy voyage home. Heave-a-ho there, sailor, everybody drink up while you may. Heave-a-ho there, sailor, for we're gonna sail at break of day. Sail, Navy, out to sea, fight our battle cry. We'll never change our course, so vicious foes steer shy. Roll out the TNT, anchors away. Sail on to victory and sink their bones to Davy Jones, hooray! Anchors away, my boys, anchors away. Farewell to college joys, we sail at break of day. Through our last night ashore, where'er we roam, until we meet once more. Here's wishing you a happy voyage home.
Carla, that was amazing, and thanks for bringing the program home. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the program.